Welcome everyone to Discover This. Well, today we got another true crime story for you. This time involving long-haul truckers as serial killers. And we're going to talk about one specific guy and his victims. But it is kind of a thing, and a number of years ago, an analyst in the state of Oklahoma noticed a pattern was forming, and that analyst contacted other jurisdictions and they put some things together and noticed there was a pattern. And then the FBI got involved and they created the Highway Serial Killer Initiative. And they came up with some criteria that had to be met, and to this day, at least the last numbers I saw, there were 850 murder victims and about 450 suspects, all of them long-haul truck drivers. Now, some of them had only killed one person, but many of them had killed multiple people, dozens and dozens. Today we're going to talk about one of those truck drivers, Keith Hunter Jesperson, also known as the Happy Face Killer. Check it out.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Keith Hunter Jesperson was a long-haul truck driver and a serial killer. He initially wanted to be with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. However, an injury during training quashed that plan. That's when he got into truck driving. Jesperson was born in Canada but moved to the United States when he was a child. After being a truck driver for a while, Jesperson realized that truck driving afforded him the opportunity to kill women without being suspected. Most of his victims were transients and sex workers. Jesperson is confirmed for 8 killings between January of 1990 and March of 1995. Keith Jesperson's first victim was Tanya Bennett on January 21st, 1990. Jesperson found her in a bar near Portland, Oregon. He ended up strangling her and disposing of her body.
Jesperson gave grisly details of how in 1990 he killed 23-year-old Tanya Bennett in his apartment.
And forced my fist into her throat, and later grabbed the rope and tied it around her neck securely, and she was dead.
Jesperson says he left the body in the Columbia Gorge, then cleaned up his house.
Washed the carpet, I washed the blood off the walls what I could, and eventually painted the walls of the house I was in, and tried to forget about it.
After that, Jesperson wrote a confession to her murder on a truck stop bathroom wall and signed it with a happy face. Jesperson was hoping for some media attention, but that confession didn't do the trick. Victim number 2 was killed by Jesperson on August 27, 1992 in Turlock, California. Her name was Cynthia Rose. Victim number 3 is the subject of this video. Towards the end of August, obviously after August 27th, Jesperson picked up a woman he called Claudia, possibly not her correct name, at the top of the Cajon Pass in San Bernardino County, California. This is kind of what it looks like today. It's under construction or reconstruction and can't get in there, can't use it, but this is the top of the Cajon Pass right before you start heading down the grade. And on or about August 30th, 1992, Jesperson picked up a woman he called Claudia at this brake check area. Not sure how she ended up here, obviously dropped off by a trucker coming from possibly Las Vegas or maybe Barstow or somewhere in between. Claudia approached Jesperson at this brake check area and asked for a ride. She told him that she was headed to Los Angeles, and Jesperson said he was headed to Arizona, Phoenix specifically. She said she would ride with him to Arizona instead of trying to get to LA. So they got into Jesperson's semi, merged back onto the I-15 South, and headed down the Cajon Pass. And when they got to the bottom, they continued on a few miles, and then they got onto the Interstate 10 eastbound and started heading towards Arizona. So after traveling on the I-10 for a while, they stopped here at a truck stop in Cabazon, California just off the I-10, which is right there, right next to the Cabazon dinosaurs, the famous Cabazon dinosaurs. And this is where Jesperson asked Claudia if she still wanted to go east all the way to Arizona. And she said she did. So after stretching their legs or maybe getting some fuel here, they got back on Interstate 10 right there, heading east towards Arizona. So after talking in Cabazon and getting back on Interstate 10, Jesperson and Claudia came out here to Indio, where Jesperson was going to stop for something to eat. And the conversation was Claudia would make up her mind in Indio whether she was going to continue on or not. So they got off Interstate 10 right over there and stopped here at this truck stop, which at the time was Burns Brothers truck stop. Different gas supplier at the time, different restaurants, but this is the same truck stop. And Jesperson pulled in here. So Jesperson would have pulled in here, pulled into the back of the lot here, parked his rig, and then they would have walked over to the building there to the restaurant and had their meal. Then when they were done with their meal, they walked back here to where he parked his truck. And once they got inside the truck, they apparently had an argument over money. And one thing led to another, and Jesperson killed Claudia inside his truck. And then he moved her body into the sleeper compartment and taped her body to the bed. That way it wouldn't bounce off as they were traveling down the road, down the highway to Arizona again. And once he got her body taped to the truck bed, the sleeper compartment, Jesperson got back on Interstate 10 right up there and continued east towards Arizona. And as Jesperson traveled east on Interstate 10, he got to the town of Blythe, California, which is right before you cross over into Arizona, far eastern end of Riverside County. And he figured he needed to do something with the body of Claudia. So as he got to the eastern part of the town of Blythe, figured he might as well dump the body outside of town here. So he took this exit so he could get on Highway 95. So he started heading north on the 95, trying to find a good place to leave Claudia. And about 7 miles out of town, he found a place to pull over, and basically the place he was looking for. And this is where he pulled over, and this is where he left her body, up against that hill behind those bushes. Her body was found on August 30th, 1992, and she'd been there for a few days. You can see from these crime scene photos taken at the time. Not a whole lot's changed. They did some sketches and they showed that she had 2 small dot tattoos on her right thumb. And they did a composite sketch. And they recently updated that composite and showed that she was wearing a shirt that said "Ride Free." And then once he left her body here, he got back in his rig, headed back south here on Highway 95, back towards Blythe and back towards Interstate 10, so he could continue on to Arizona. Jesperson started writing to the media and law enforcement to try and get some credit for his crimes. He started with a 6-page letter to the Oregonian detailing his killings. He put a happy face on each of the letters, and a reporter at some point labeled him the Happy Face Killer. November 8, 1992 was when Jesperson killed Lori Pentland in Salem, Oregon.
Are convinced Jesperson is in fact the serial killer he claims to be. The other case closest to being tied to Jesperson is the death of 23-year-old Lori Pentland of Carlton. She was found strangled behind a store in Salem in 1992. Investigators in Marion County are waiting for forensics results to confirm their suspicion that Pentland is one of Jesperson's victims.
Victim number 5 was killed in Santanella, California in June of 1993. Her body was found in Gilroy, California. Jesperson thought her name was Carla or Cindy. It turns out when she was finally identified in 2022, her name was Patricia Skipple. Victim number 6 was found in September 1994 in Crestview, Florida. Jesperson thought her name was Suzanne. She was finally identified in October of 2023 as Suzanne Jellenberg. Victim number 7 was picked up by Jesperson in Spokane, Washington, January of 1995. Her name was Angela Soubrise. He ended up killing her just east of Cheyenne, Wyoming, and he dumped her body outside of Gothenburg, Nebraska. Jesperson was finally arrested on March 30th, 1995 for the murder of Julie Winningham. She was killed on March 10th in Washington State. Jesperson had been questioned by police a week before his arrest, but they didn't have enough to arrest him at that time. You see, Julie Winningham was Keith Jesperson's girlfriend, actually fiancée, although she may have been an ex-girlfriend at the time of her killing.
Last March, when authorities found the body of 41-year-old Julie Winningham dumped along the Camas Highway, that investigators began linking the cases. They arrested and charged Jesperson in the Camas Highway killing. Jesperson says he doesn't really know why he started his killing spree.
After Jesperson was arrested, he wrote his brother a detailed letter outlining the 8 murders. His brother contacted authorities, and investigators started questioning Jesperson, including those from Riverside County. He had details on each of the 8 murders that only the murderer would know. Plus, he was able to tell law enforcement the location of Angela Soubrise's body in Nebraska. In September of 2009, Keith Jesperson was indicted for the murder of Jane Doe, aka Claudia, whose body was found outside of Blythe, California. He was extradited from Oregon to Riverside County and was found guilty of the murder of Claudia in January of 2010. He was sent back to Oregon to finish his sentence there.
The Happy Face Killer pled guilty to a murder in the year 2010, and he was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Jesperson is currently serving multiple life sentences for having killed 8 women across the country. This woman is the last of all his victims to remain unidentified.
The killer referred to the woman as Claudia, although that may not be her real name. It is suspected in the morning before her death, she caught a ride with a grocery store truck driver traveling from Las Vegas or Barstow region along the I-15 near the Cajon Pass. The woman was believed to be hitchhiking to get to the Los Angeles area. At about 9 a.m., Claudia was dropped off at a brake stop south of Victorville by the unknown driver. Claudia then walked over to Keith Hunter Jesperson while he was working on his purple 1989 Peterbilt. Claudia then asked him for a ride to Los Angeles. He responded, "I am headed to Arizona. The closest I can take you is to Cabazon." She took the ride. The two stopped in Cabazon. From there, Claudia decided to continue driving with Jesperson. They traveled down the I-10 east to the Burns Brother truck stop near Indio. They exited the truck around 1 p.m. to have lunch inside the diner. This would be Claudia's last meal. After eating, the two had a heated argument in Jesperson's truck. This is where he killed her. Jesperson continued east on the I-10. He turned onto Highway 95 towards Blythe, where he left the woman's body on the side of the road.
So that's going to do it, everyone, for this story of Keith Hunter Jesperson and the truck driver serial killer and his crimes. The FBI, this was becoming so prolific, these truck driver serial killers, that the FBI actually formed basically a task force and to study this and investigate all these, and there was just so many of them. And a book recently came out, recently as of the filming of this video anyway, and you can check this book out if this interests you, the true crime stuff, and learn about their investigation into all these. Now Jesperson says he killed upwards of 160 women. They've been able to prove 8. There's many investigators that think there's more than 8, but they've been able to prove 8, and he'll be in prison the rest of his life for those 8. But anyway, I appreciate you taking the time to check this video out, and please check out some of our other videos, and we will see you next time.